right, everybody, we are back with another Ramp Careers Daily Update. Today I'm here with Manoj, my co-founder. Manoj, how you doing?
Doing well, Danny. How are you?
I'm good. I'm missing Mitch today. He's always on point with it's Friday Eve, so meaning it's Thursday here.
I hope he's
uh,
not out at happy hour. It's too early for that.
Yeah, true. So today we want to talk about something that I know is near and dear to our hearts as we're spinning up our podcast, but
hmm
it's the three things that you wish you knew heading into your first job that you now know. So I'll let you take it away. I know we've been talking about this with some of our guests, but what are a few or three of the things that you wish you had known in your first job?
We'll kick off with a couple. One of the things that I wish I knew was that things may not pan out the way you expect things to pan out, and that it's okay. Going into my first job, I had this idea that I was going to do X, Y, and Z. And then as soon as I do that, it's going to lead into the next thing within that industry or whatever it is. And then if I'm able to just get the one and two done, and then something else is going to happen, right? And I didn't have enough foresight to know that there are things that you may or may not be able to control. There are things that you may learn as you get exposed to new information about your own self, your own skills, and that it may lead you to a completely different path that you hadn't anticipated. And no one really told me this. And as and when it happened, I was shocked. I was disappointed. I didn't know how to react when things didn't go as planned. So I wish I just knew that, man, you can plan some things, you can expect certain outcomes, but there's something to just going with the flow, and that's okay. I wish I knew that before I took my first job. It would have saved me a lot of stress and angst. What about yourself?
Well, my first job right out of college was actually a law clerk job. I got the opportunity to work with one of my family friends law clerking. And I knew going into it that something didn't really feel right. However, my optimization, or what I was trying to do right after school, was actually what I was optimizing right after school was actually to get a job, any job. And instead, what I wish I would have known back then and what I didn't know is that it's okay to listen to a few things. It's okay to listen to your emotions, what they're telling you, and how you're feeling. If something really doesn't feel right, that is something that you should note. Now, is it the strongest thing? I don't know, but it's something that you should note. And then two, it's okay to learn that you don't like something by doing. And I
Mhm.
didn't know that at the time. I put a lot of pressure on myself in that first career, that first job, to think that I had to do this law track. And if I didn't do it, I was, somewhat of a disappointment because I had set myself up to, take the LSAT and go into somewhat of a law track. And instead, I should have just treated it as an experiment, like any other experiment or any other test, like I would
Mhm.
at a startup or in a startup culture. And then I didn't. I really put a lot of pressure on myself to succeed and really see it through, which I did. I
Mhm.
saw it through for a few months on end. But I've definitely felt a little bit embarrassed when I wasn't able to make it work in the law track. And I wish I just would have known it's okay to try things and fail, or try things and not like them.
Well, here's another favorite of mine, and man, this took me 12 years to realize. So this is a fairly recent realization. All things equal. Another thing that I wish I knew going in was that at the end of the day, experiences matter a lot more than credentials and lay prestige. And man, I wish someone, well, I can't blame somebody else to, kind of show me the ropes and tell me what to do. But back then, my thinking was, let me just go collect like tokens, as many credentials as I can, and let's just go for brand names, and let's just go with this notion of things that sound prestigious, things that might win the admiration of others. And I don't think it really matters at the end of the day. I think experiences mean so much more than things that don't have any depth or things that are just plain credentialing for the sake of it. That's another thing that I wish I learned, right? So people may be looking for jobs today. My advice would be focus on where you think you'd get the best experience. Don't worry about the brand name or the pedigree or the industry. To some extent, it may not even matter. And I just didn't know that. It took me a long time to figure out that, who cares at the end of the day? We're all people. We're all trying to pay our bills. And, if we're able to do that, I think the next itch would be, well, what's my legacy, right? I mean, it's just a hierarchy of needs, but kind of looking back, I think that's important to just focus on experiences and cut all the noise. Have you felt the same way?
Yeah, totally. I was going to say something somewhat similar on my next point, but a little bit different. But I echo that sentiment. Absolutely. It was what I was going to say there is it's not always a sprint to this end goal or whatever your end goals are. You can be sure that your career is an evolution and it continuously evolves. Mine continues to evolve as well. Obviously, we met in 2016, 2017, and look where we are now. We're launching a company together. Had I not met you, I don't know what we would have been doing, or I don't know where we would have synced up. It's so just remember that you don't need to sprint to the finish line. Your goal can be a long goal. You can have short goals. You can have a mixed bag of goals, and it doesn't matter how you get there or when you get there. Just know that you will get there in your head. And I think that's something I didn't necessarily know back in the day. I was very much in a sprint to get to my goals, especially at Groupon, where I really just wanted to impress, do the best I could, on to the next very fast-paced environment. And I certainly took that to heart, but I was dead set on continuing to push myself further and further and further and further. And then I burnt out quite a bit at the end because I was working myself so hard. And it's okay to just be methodical in your approach and optimize for like you said, as eloquently as you said it, just experiences over short-term goals or short-term bursts.
Yeah. Here's the last thing to kind of top it all off, right? I've failed more in the past 5 years than I have in the first 12. And I think looking back, I just optimized for games that I'd only play a game if I felt like I had a really good shot at winning. And I just optimized it for it so well that I never took enough of a risk, and it gives you an artificial sense of accomplishment and an artificial sense of comfort. And again, I wish that there shouldn't be this aversion to failure, especially early on in life when you're not tied down by other encumbrances, like you're not responsible for providing for a family, or maybe you are, but not to as much of a degree. You may be more mobile. You might be able to live in a different country, travel elsewhere, work for different kinds of companies. I think people should, especially early on, should not have an aversion to failure. I'm not talking about aversion to risk, but aversion to failure. I think it's okay to fail. In my mind, if you haven't failed, then you just haven't tried. And I didn't realize that until much later. And listen, I don't regret any of the decisions that I'd made historically, but it took me a little bit of introspection to realize that all I was doing was just only putting myself in places where I felt like I had a meaningful shot to succeeding. And if I didn't, then I wouldn't even participate. Like, why participate in a game that I'm going to fail? I think it might be a combination of pride and ego, but man, that's not worth shit. That's my last piece of advice for folks early on. It's okay. Fail often. It's a good thing.
It's great advice. My last one would be, balance is key. In my earlier days, not so long ago, my first startup out here, Groupon, I was all work and very little play, very little extra. And I think what helped me decompress, very on when I'm on and off when I'm off, is allowing myself to relax at the end of each day, allowing myself to take time for myself a little bit more and not get super wound up all the time and be 100 all the time. That's allowed me to think a little more clearly on the initiatives I have at work, simply because I'm more balanced and focusing some time on things that I like outside of work, whether it's my family or friends or golf or skiing or things that I truly enjoy. I didn't do that enough in the first part of my career. In fact, something that I love is golf. I pretty much took a break from golf for the first 5 years of my professional life. And in the last 3 or 4 years, I found it again. Now know how important stuff like that is to maintaining really just your mental sanity, mental health. And yeah, balance. Something that I'm still learning, but it's critically important. I wish I would have told myself that back in the day.
I wonder what 3 pieces of learnings we'd have 10 years from now. I wouldn't be surprised if they're completely different from the ones that we've just shared. And we could wrap it up with this thought. I've reached an age in life where I'm starting to relate to my parents a little more. I don't know if you feel the same way. And these days I'm just like, man, they're just two people that tried to make the best out of life with information that they had and resources that they had. They didn't have answers to everything. And I'm kind of finding myself in the same boat. And I'm like, man, I shouldn't have been like so tough on them when I was younger. And when they shared like these pieces of wisdom, I like roll my eyes and be like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, oh my God, like I feel it. And a natural journey. I'm sure, some people may listen to this and say, these guys don't know what the F they're talking about. And that's okay, because I was one of those people in the past. But for those that may choose to kind of roll the dice and use this perspective, something good may come out of it.
Yeah, that's great. And certainly after having a kid, kid. I feel the same, starting to think, man, they really did a shitload for me, especially in these younger years. Like I did not even, I mean, I knew inherently that you have to take care of a baby, but I didn't realize the amount that they did, the hard work that they put in to provide for my brothers and me growing up, and definitely gives you a ton of perspective. And I do feel the same, especially now, man. It's escalated in the past year with my son. This is good. It's a philosophical discussion today. I think we needed this. This one feels a little bit different, but I hope all of you got some value out of it as well. And yeah, we should check back in, make a note here to check back in 10 years and see how vastly different the advice will be.
Good chat, Danny.
Awesome. Good. Yeah, great chatting with you. For Manoj and Danny, this is another Ramp Careers Daily Update. Thanks, everybody.